just for the special, or for the work session. We don't do anything official for the work sessions.
Okay, no recording.
Oh,
No,
she
it's on.
does. Is it on?
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to call the work session to order, Mr. Vice Chairman? You want me to handle it?
No, I think I can handle that.
All right, let's see.
Think about it. Call a work session for, what is today?
10.
All day it's the top.
November 10th, 2015. We're officially to order.
Nice job, Fred.
Yeah, I don't-
What topics do we have to discuss today?
I had asked Ken to come up to talk about EMS, touch on a little bit with the levies that passed and didn't pass, and then also to maybe bring up the monitors, since it appears that we may have one less squad in the county. So just wanted him to come up, and just for our work session, nothing has to be
Well, let's go
said.
backwards. Where are we at with those monitors? I know there was a request made to purchase those, and you were gonna, where did we leave it?
We were, our quote's good for another few, I think another week. It's a 30-day quote.
Yeah.
And I had originally requested 10, now that,
10,000 or 10 units?
10 units.
Okay.
Yeah, and
At
what was the
$21,000 a piece.
That's, okay, that's, I thought it was,
Which is
it was about a $200,000.
It is about a $200,000 investment. I only make that investment every 10 to 12 years. So it's not like something I have to, it's not a budgetable thing, you know. It's something that we do once every 10 years or so. Because they're durable medical equipment, doesn't last forever.
Remind me where that money's coming from?
I'm requesting it from you,
From the general
from the
budget.
general fund.
Do we have any funds that are
We do have,
pigeonholed for that?
we've got some set aside in our contingency fund that we could use.
That's the 150,000 then.
And then we have what's available on the CERT, which I think the last one was 1.3 that was available to appropriate on the CERT. Kind of our carryover right now.
That contingency fund that you were talking about this morning could use elsewhere. I think maybe we may have just blew that.
Well, I don't know that we've blown it, but, you know, I think, you know, as we've talked about before, the safety of the citizens is the number one priority, and this certainly comes under that category. But anyways, Ken, go ahead and you're gonna do
Well,
some other things.
the 10 units, we don't really need now, since Green Springs and Adams Township have chosen to go with a private ambulance company. Although, they have not reached out to me since Tuesday of last week, so I don't know if they've talked to any of you folks. But my plan now, with not having to outfit a ambulance in Green Springs, we'll only buy 9 of these monitors.
So just stay in the work session.
And currently, I can justify those 9 of those, and that'll still keep us right where we are with having every squad in the county having the latest technological cardiac monitors. These things do a lot more than cardiac monitor, but they also transmit via Wi-Fi to all the hospitals in the region. They do everything from blood pressure, pulse oximetry. If you're in the ER, you've seen this monitor. Basically, does the same thing the ER monitors do.
What are we gonna do with the ambulance that was at the Green Springs Pleasant?
The new 2014 International is currently at Green Springs. My plan is to move that truck to the Jackson Liberty Bettsville Joint Ambulance District that has an ambulance in Bettsville. Move that there because they're the next on the list to receive a new ambulance. They're currently in a 99 Ford, so the International will move to them. And that's really where I'm gonna put a lot of my efforts here for the next few months, getting them up and running nice and strong. And we're also gonna move quite a few, or ask quite a few of the volunteers to come over from the Green Springs area. They have about a dozen, and ask them to come over and volunteer with Bettsville to shore up that service, as well as, since they passed their levy, they're going to begin doing the reimbursement, the compensation for their volunteers. So there'll be a little bit of investment into them as well. So we've supported all the joint districts that have been successful, starting off at the beginning of last year with New Riddle, Big Spring, Seneca, NBS district, the AVR district, which you guys, and I appreciate coming to all those meetings. And we have a meeting with JLB tonight. So we've got 4 districts formed. That was our original goal from the outset of the April 5th meeting in 2014. our goal was to begin moving towards the township model, the joint ambulance district model of support for EMS. We've achieved that. We're at 4 districts now, and they've all passed their levies, and they're all supported by their residents in their townships and villages. The only one that failed, which was a surprise to me. I mean, we put a lot of effort forth to Green Springs and Adams Township, as well as Pleasant Township. And Green Springs and Adams chose to go with a private. And to the next part of that is Pleasant Township did not pass their levy, and it was by a wide margin that their residents chose to not support moving to private ambulance. So what my plan is there is to encourage the elected officials from Pleasant Township to approach the joint ambulance district in Bettsville and seek membership with that joint ambulance district board. And perhaps we can utilize the joint ambulance district in Bettsville. If I had a map, I could show you real cleanly. It's only 5 minutes from Bettsville to Old Fort. That would be the logical choice. So supporting Pleasant Township joining in with the Bettsville Joint Ambulance District would be the ideal model for them at the 1 mil rate, because their voters were adamant that 2.47 was too much.
If they join
Yes.
one that's up to JLB, got the acronym right?
Right. Yes.
That's up to them to allow, to accept them or to offer to let them join.
Right.
Anybody joining that automatically, that puts
The
whatever
millage.
millage on for that new territory as
Right.
well.
Yes, ma'am.
So that,
Okay,
So it doesn't have to go to the voters then?
No, sir.
If the elected officials decide that they want to go on with the other district, then automatically they bring that millage on to
Yes, sir.
their,
And that would be the quickest, most efficient way to finance the personnel costs, which is, I know you guys remember, that's all that the townships are responsible for. All the other costs associated with running the EMS are ours to bear, and I think we do that. We meet the needs of the agreement, we're there. And my very first part of this conversation, asking for new monitors, is a part of that support that we show to them. Their support to us is to provide the personnel. If they join that district, that would allow them to have a budget to be able to pay for, reimburse, and compensate some volunteers to keep that district strong.
let me go back to the cardio unit.
Yes, sir.
The ones that we have now, from my recollection of conversation, is technically they're not really being supported anymore.
That's correct.
Parts of
They're
the-
from 2005, it's old technology. Parts are getting harder to find. Knock on wood, we haven't been real hard on them, so they still have a pretty good trade-in value. And they can be upgraded, but when you upgrade an older unit, you run into problems with other things starting to fail as well. So at 10 years, we're right at the expected lifespan of these units. In my mind, and in everybody that I've spoke to, it's a good idea to replace them once every 10 years or so. And with the new technology that's out there, that'll give us the ability to transmit to all of our hospitals instead of just one, which we have that ability
And
now.
we have looked at and exhausted any possibilities for any grants for this.
Yes, sir, I've looked at all kinds of grants, and there are small grants available, but not for this sort of technology. They provide, there's small grants out there for AEDs, which are automatic external defibrillators. They don't do what these do. Those are the kind like fire trucks carrying police cars. They have them hanging in the walls in malls and stuff like that. So there's really no grants of any extent for this. I have other grants out there that I'm asking for that would offset the cost in another way. You know, I mean, there's a possibility of getting a grant for the opiate task force, for Narcan, which I think is actually gonna happen. So that'll save us a little money on the other end of the budget. So we're doing grants the best we can, but there is no one specific for this.
Okay.
well,
So,
I'm sorry, the 200,000 you're requesting, is that already got the trade-in value off of that? Or is it 200,000 minus the trade-in value?
No, this has the trade-in value of.
That's okay. That's a net figure to us.
Yes, sir.
so it's 180, but it's 180 now.
It would be 180 now, yes, sir.
And what do we need to do? We won't pass anything in work session, but this quote's good for another 30 days, you said?
I'm not sure what the date is on that quote, but I think we're at the end of that 30 days. I could always give them a call and see what they could do for me. I'm sure they'd extend that price.
I assume we-
Valid until November 30th.
So we're good till November 3rd.
Okay, so that's something we could bring as a resolution for appropriation at the
Yeah.
next meeting then?
Yep, we can do that next week.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend that we do that so you can enter into a contract with them. As I agree with Commissioner Kirstrom. We really have no greater responsibility but the safety of the citizens.
I appreciate that. This moves us forward quite a bit with that project.
My only suggestion, if it is kind of a 10-year life cycle and it is so expensive, try to budget in a little every year to.
We tried to do that.
Fortunately, this year we got 150,000 of contingency that we've had in there, and that will help. And you say the rest is,
We've got about a 1.3 available to appropriate.
okay.
I know that we have been talking about the need to do this for about the past 5 years. I've not really budgeted anything because our budget's pretty tight right out of the gate, as you guys understand how the budget, far better than I do, how the budget overall looks, so. My budget's tight right to the line most of the time.
Okay.
We'll have a resolution prepared for next week's meeting and can handle it formally then.
Okay.
Ken, I think you've done an excellent job of, over the last year and a half of educating the townships on the importance of this joint ambulance district. And while we all realize it's not a permanent long-term goal, but I think it may get us, I think you mentioned 10 years down the road.
I think if Bascom's any indicator, it'll take us a good 10 to 15, if not 20, down the road. And it really puts the townships in the driver's seat right beside us to make the changes and go as far as they want. I mean, they have, once the joint ambulance district is set up, they have the mechanism in place to have full-time people if they'd like. It's only a matter of moving from compensated volunteers to part-paid volunteers, part-paid employees to full-time employees. And this is what, and I give a lot of credit to how I learned about this to Chief Ennis. This is the way that you move from volunteer to full-time. You can't do it overnight. A turnkey operation is just too expensive. So this is the way to do it. And I appreciate your support on making it happen from where you guys sit. But I think we still need to make sure that we clean up the loose ends where they are, reach out to Pleasant Township and the guys who are still having questions, and make sure that they know that there's a way to make this work. Thanks.
Is it on EMS too? Anything else? Okay.
The work session, I don't know unless you want to, Renee and Eric, talk about land bank a little bit.
Yeah, we could do that. We've got it down to talk about that at 10, but this is our work session. We can't act on anything, but we could talk about the land bank now if you guys are.
Damon was planning on attending too.
Oh, that's right, and he won't be here until 10 because it's scheduled at 10.
Yeah.
Couldn't have to make you wait, so.
Sorry. Not that he's, doesn't have the information.
Right.
I know he was coming over for
Yeah,
the 10 o'clock.
yeah, and we will have to, and at 10, we'll have to do the hearing first because that's scheduled.
I can keep blabbing on about EMS if you want. It's the only thing I know how to talk.
Let's talk about museum for a second. We don't have to use this in session. We're scheduled next Wednesday for
We have another
organizational meeting.
reorganizational team meeting, yep.
And where are we at with the bids?
We do have it
We
set.
posted it, they've got till the 30th of this month, is that right?
First
of
of
the
De-
days,
yeah.
first of December.
1st of December, 30th,
Okay,
yeah.
and so we'll have some bids in by then, we can hopefully get that work started.
Have we had any contractors that requested the bids?
There's been a couple,
I've got a few phone calls.
Do you? Okay, good, okay.
and it is up on our website, so they can go straight to our website and download all the documents off our website, so.
How do they get wind when it's posted? The Dodge Report or what?
Construction forums like that, pick it up. We do advertise in the Advertiser Tribune, and I think they surf those things, because we always get calls.
the only thing I needed from you.
Yeah, a question came to me, is can we, it was brought on by the foundation, are we gonna need all of their funds for us to enter into a contract, even though the contract won't be implemented till next year? I'm trying to look at, from their standpoint, where they've got investments and so forth, where they can start withdrawing those over a period of time versus I guess the legal part, can we enter into a contract when we don't have all the funds physically in our hands, even though it's been approved by various sources? How does that legal part?
I believe we can, because we would have certificate coverage of those type of funds.
We have the funds set aside for the full project. The general fund will just get reimbursed when we get that.
Yeah,
Okay,
That money.
so from their standpoint, even though I believe Tippett Tomorrow, whatever, they've already given us.
Tippett Charitable.
The Tippett Charitable, they've given us all their funds. The museum, or the foundation, we don't need all those funds right now until,
Well, depending on the bid, it's possible this won't get done until the spring.
right.
oh, I would think very strongly it won't get done. until
Yeah, I
the
would say
spring.
they would not need to withdraw until we award the contract, and when we award the contract, we'd have a schedule. And so then, even then, yeah, depending on what the contract says, probably payable completion
That
of.
would give
and-
them ample time to
Yeah,
look at their investments and find out which is the best ones to withdraw from and so forth. I
Yeah.
prefer to do that and make it easy with them and,
exactly, yeah, they live off that, I mean, they've got money, but they've got
Yeah.
to maintain balances to get the interest they
yeah,
get.
yeah, okay.
Is our
That was-
maintenance
No sense in them pulling it any sooner than we need
That
it.
was my thought too, just
Yeah.
to give to us, to let us sit there and not do anything.
Has our maintenance crew done any preliminary work yet? They talked about the number of things they could do,
Yep, they're working on it.
so they're
Yep.
doing some things there
Yep,
now.
they're doing some things.
So I know that some of that, they're worried about snow and stuff,
Yep,
if they can get the sidewalks properly leveled.
yep, yep. Some of those spoutings and different things they were gonna take care of.
Good.
We could, since we can't formally call this to order until 10, this is just continuation of our work session. Just a brief update on the Justice Center. We had the interviews with the construction managers at risk last week, and so going through the
Process.
proper evaluation process on that. And then when that's complete, we'd be able to announce the results of that. And we are in negotiations with the selected architect, which was Silling. So the architectural work, as soon as we can get a contract negotiated there. And our owner's rep, Quando, plans to, once we have both these steps at the same place, I guess, have a joint meeting to really talk about the laydown of the land of communications and how things will flow and work between all the entities involved. And so it'll be great to get to that point, because like I said, it's all progress, but we gotta follow all the procedures and the steps and everything else, but
And we can have a meeting Friday at
Okay.
9:30.
this.
This Friday.
This Friday at 9:30, and that's a regular team meeting,
Yep.
leadership team meeting over at the municipal building, city's municipal building.
We were gonna do that here.
We're doing it here,
Yeah,
okay.
we're doing it here.
Well, I'll follow up the financing, since I'm kind of looking at that.
Yeah.
Stacy Wilson and I had a phone conference with Joe Robertson, and the underwriter, and John Larson, the attorney. I think Joe is ready to go make the presentation to the people that are gonna do the bond, the rating company, Standard & Poor's probably. But John is a little hesitant because we're not really 100% there with the number. So, we had originally talked about trying to talk with the underwriters or with the rating agencies the first week of December. It looks like, not the first week, the 9th, 10th, somewhere around there. It looks like probably that meeting will take place the next week at the earliest. We're hoping to get it done before the holidays. So we're talking about the 16th, 17th range. So if you try to keep your calendars potentially clear, because it'll take a couple of days to do that. And I'm not even, they want to wait until we have the meeting with the chosen CMR and the engineer to at least give us nobody's ever gonna give us a concrete number, but to give us more of an idea as to where we think we'll be. We all settled on 5.5 million, you know, their word is, to finance, their word is, I'd rather have you go ahead and ask for more and get approved for more and take less. The worst thing that could happen is you don't get enough. So, that's kind of where that financing is. And again, I'm anxious, as I told them, to get in there and get that thing priced because of what could happen to interest rates. So, the week of December 15th, is that what that Monday is?
That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday that week, it's possible that we would need to go that, maybe the evening of the 15th and be gone the 16th and 17th or whatever, in that range.
So push back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that that's the date, but that's really, as I told them, that's really the last possible time this year. Because once you get beyond that, you know, it's over as far as the holidays go.
Right.
We'll be into the first of the year. So we're looking hard at that. That is the date.
So, well, when we've got all the entities together, will they even be in a position to give us a harder number, even though I know it's not
Well,
the final
no, it's
number?
not so much a number, Fred, as it is knowing that your CMR's in place, knowing that your architect's in place, and knowing that nobody has said, my God, you know, this $8 million that you want to do is not even close. At this point, all the indications have been that there's enough money and enough time, everybody feels comfortable with it. But as the process evolves, I think we will get more assurances that, that this number is okay.
Yeah. As I have mentioned, I think we need to, when we look for financing, we need to go in heavier. And my suggestion, we look at a $10 million project, I think we need to prepare for $11 million overall project. I just don't want to go, you know, we
Well,
want to build
I-
something that fits within the community and that has the look of a courthouse and not just a steel building. And, I mean, I've heard numerous people in the county mention that to me, so I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish here.
Well, you're right, and that's exactly what they're saying. You know, go in and ask for more. When they do the underwriting, they'll make sure that you can cash flow more. There's no problem in going and asking for less. The problem would be if you ask for too little.
Yep.
They do the underwriting and then they have to redo it all over again because you're asking for more. So there's no problem if you're cash flowing less. So that's what we got.
My attitude's always prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
That's a great attitude.
There's nothing else on that. We've got just a couple minutes before 10.
Damon's still not here.
And, yeah, bring up, John Spar at WTTF has asked, and I need to follow up with him, we haven't communicated, but not in direct conversation, with each other about us doing some type of a county update with them on a regular basis. What I need to know is if he's talking once a month, twice a month, weekly,
Yeah.
what, and if we're all game to kind of share that in doing so. That, you know, somebody could do it this month, somebody the next month, or whatever the schedule is, but I'll find out more from him. Just
Yeah.
want you to know he's asking. They're trying to, you know, I guess they've been doing a lot of that type of programming and so forth, but I don't know, like I said, timeframe, what he's talking about, if he's talking about monthly or more frequently than that, or what, but.
Some of us have a face for radio. So.
That's right, if we all can have a face for radio. So I will report back when I know a little more on what type of schedule he's looking for on that.
Yeah, I would imagine it's once a month, and I would imagine
Yeah,
it's probably earlier in the morning than we want to go anyway.
probably, but that's okay. All right. I guess we are rolling, right? So we'll go right into-
There he is.
Our sessions are all recorded, including that work session we just completed. So it's 10 o'clock, so I'll officially call this meeting of the Seneca County Board of Commissioners for November 10th to order. Please join us with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So join me for prayer. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to gather as public servants and doing the deed, the good work of the county. Please be with us as we go through the process of doing the best we can and making adequate decisions on behalf of the public Seneca County. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Here.
Commissioner Zoller?
Here.
Commissioner Kushner?
Here.
I'll have the signing of the journal, and I'll accept a motion to approve the DVD recording from our previous board session from Tuesday, November 3rd, and the written index of that meeting.
Make a motion, we approve it as outlined.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved, thank you. All right. We're going to move right into the scheduled things we've got on the agenda, and the first being the hearing for the Bascom elevator request, and this is regarding a vacation of a alley, right? All right, Mark, or you take it from here?
Sure.
What happens here, with the sign-in sheet's coming around because
That's
it
fine.
is a public hearing for
Explain
this.
where we are. There was a request by the folks that own the Bascom Elevator to vacate a section of actual public road and a public alley. It's a piece of ground that encompasses and circles property not only owned by the elevator, but there are actually two other properties that are adjoining the alley section that is asking to be vacated. We had a viewing as required by law last week, and attendance was taken at that. The next part of this is at a public hearing, which is where we are today, where people inform the commissioners whether they're in favor or if they're against vacating this piece of public right-of-way. As far as the county, and I guess for the record, I'm Mark Zimmerman, the county engineer, and we're involved in a lot of these proceedings and help the commissioners with the vacations, or the villages or the cities with vacations or of properties and public right-of-ways. The township is in favor, or they are not opposed, let's say that. We met with them of the vacation, and this is a time now at the public hearing for any landowners to speak in favor or against the vacation. What a vacation does is basically takes that piece of ground away from public interest and put us back in the hands of the private landowners. As a rule, what generally happens when for instance, a 30-foot road is vacated, 15 foot would go to each adjoiner, a 16-foot alley, which is the width of the alley, 8 foot to each adjoiner. That is the standard. It does not have to be that way, but that is the way it generally has been intended to be done. So at this time, I don't know if you have formal procedures for identifying who you are, your name, your address, whether you were directly affected by the project, and if you are in favor or against it, and anything you want to say. That's what we're here for. So, I guess.
Yeah, if anybody wants to speak, like Stacy said, you'll need to state your name, affiliation, and then share your comments. Our meetings are recorded. You'll get on the camera if you are in front of it. If not, it'll pick you up, the audio. So if anybody's got remarks at this time.
Well, my name is Scott Barneisel, and I'm Vice President of Midwood, and Bascom Elevator and Midwood merged effective September a year ago. And what we'd asked for was to close the street and alley. What we'd ask beyond that, and Randy talked to the two, this is Randy Brickner, the branch manager of Bascom. He talked to the two other landowners. We would like the other portion of that alley. We will maintain the alley. Our intent is not to close it. We're going to maintain it as it is. It's just we'd like to do roughly a $2 to $3 million improvement to the facility. And with the traffic, the truck traffic and farmer traffic, we would like to have access to that. And so that's beyond this. We'd ask that we could have the other portion of the alley also.
Has there been any reaction from landowners?
I haven't gotten any. Randy's more.
I
local
talked to
than I am.
them, they said that would be fine.
So you don't think you have any objections to that?
They, and from our standpoint, they can still use it. Like I said, we have no intentions of closing it, it'd still be there, we'll maintain it. We just, with our construction and flow of traffic, we thought it'd be best if we could do that.
If you own it all, would that allow you the setback to be a little better?
Um,
for the building?
It would, but not a lot, because the construction that we're gonna do will not involve the alley, but we do need the alley to be able to get the trucks and farmer traffic around the improvement.
Would it be possible to get in record, to have them sign off that they're willing to give, as Mark said, that typically what we do is we would split the alleyway. You know, or you guys would get half and the landowner would get half. I think it may be advisable, at least for public record, that we get a letter with their signature saying that they're okay to give up 100% of what we would call their right. I mean, Mark, would that be?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I just, because of going, Julie, I think you got a question.
I'm not aware of any provision that allows it other than dividing it in half.
Right, unless
And then
they,
they can deed it out after that.
Run that by me again.
She says the only provision we can do is do this equal
I
split.
talked to the
as
prosecutor,
normal,
but I'm not
but
aware of
then
any
they
other.
could deed it out, the
Back to the-
one to the other, to deed it back to the,
All we're doing is vacating it.
Right.
we're just,
I just wanna make sure we got proper documentation. I don't
yeah,
want
that
somebody
has to happen.
down the road
Right.
that a landowner saying, well, the precedence has been that it always was split. In this case, we didn't split. So. we got
But Julie's saying
documentation.
Julie's saying
have
we
to
can't do anything but split. Then
Okay.
then the landowners at that point would have to work with each other
Right.
to deed it back to each
Yeah.
other.
So we have to split when we vacate. Then it's just up with you to work with the landowners.
And if we didn't split, could we just have an easement? If they would give us an easement where we maintain?
That's completely up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, what happens with the vacation is the process for vacating simply takes the public entity out of the equation. It is no longer public right of way. This is a little different than a traditional vacation in a lot of senses, that in villages and in dedicated and platted areas like we are in Bascom, this, generally, if you were to vacate a township road, or a section of township road, or a section of county road, due to the fact that counties and townships own rights of way over ground, ownership, the underlying fee of that ground still goes to the center of the right of way, so a landowner owns to the center of the road. Although we have a right of way over that, so they basically can't use it, but they still have the underlying fee. So when you vacate it, that fee, when you take your right of way away, their fee still goes to the center. In platted areas, the ground is actually owned by the right of way. It's not truly a right of way. It is township property. Okay, your ownership does not go to the center of it. Your ownership goes to the right of way lines. And so how that gets divided by the way it's always been done is in half. So when it gets divided, and part of it goes to, a legal description would need to be provided of that piece of ground, because right now it's owned by the township. If it's vacated, then a legal description for each of those properties and what they own, a legal description of what you own, they can either quit claim that to you, they can give you an easement over it, that's completely up to you guys how you want to handle that. Totally.
and up to this point, all parties involved have been aware of this process and know what we are doing. So if we act on this today, then that would allow them to continue to keep moving forward on their project. And-
Yeah, public notices should have been sent out to all the adjoiners, I assume.
Yeah. So
The last thing,
that's been done.
honestly, I'll say is visually, if you come off 635 there before the tracks, it looks like you're entering onto private property anyway right now. It really doesn't look like a road.
Yeah.
You would hesitate to go in there.
I would make a motion that we approve the vacation. That's what we need to do.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Prior to calling for that vote, is there anyone else that wishes to speak at anything on behalf of this hearing? Okay, just one person entered, I wasn't sure. All right.
There are no other landowners here that are involved in the proceedings? I just want to make sure that people aren't afraid to speak if they have something to say, that a lot of times in public settings, people don't want to speak. This is your time. I don't know what everyone's here for, but I just want to make sure that this is your,
Oh, we have this every week, we have this kind of.
oh, well, that's why, I just want to make sure that people understand that this is your time.
Most of
If
us
you're,
aren't sure either, Mark.
if you're here and this is affecting you and you're a landowner and adjoiner, I don't know who the adjoiners are, that you understand that this is your time to come forward and speak, that you don't want it to happen, that you do want it to happen, that, you know, this is what this hearing is for. So I just want to make sure that everybody clearly understands that.
Right,
So,
right. All right, seeing
Roll
no,
call.
seeing no hands, call the roll.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, vacation is approved.
In your hands now.
Thank you. All right, the other thing we had scheduled at 10 o'clock was to talk about the land bank. And we have Mayor Keckler and we have Renee from Foster Economic Development, Renee Smith, here to share some information on this, I believe. This is something they've been interested in seeing happen. It wasn't until July of this year, legislation changed in the state of Ohio that allowed this to happen in Seneca County because of our populations, allowing everybody under 60,000 folks to create a county land bank if you wanted to do so. And so I'll let you guys speak on what you want to say about it. It really creates it's a private, it's not really going to be a governmental thing. It's provided, the means, the path to make it happen is through government, but it's not a government entity once it's created.
Absolutely. I'm Eric Keckler, Mayor of Fostoria, and I'll give you a little background on why we came about looking at land banks. Like a lot of cities, we have a lot of vacant and abandoned properties, and during the Attorney General's Move Ohio Forward program, we managed to tear down 24 of those houses in Fostoria that were dilapidated structures. And we'd been studying up to that time on how we could attack the problem of abandoned and vacated houses in the city. And so we started studying some things. We did some legislation to do a vacant and abandoned house registry. And we're also looking at, we did legislation on foreclosed properties to get them moved and so that they would not sit vacant and get dilapidated. And so we ended up with these houses that were torn down and some properties that were now vacant lots, and still have some other houses in Fostoria that we need to take care of as far as dilapidated structures. And so as we studied this issue, Renee Smith, the president of Economic Development, and I talked a lot about different ideas, and the subject of the land bank came up. So Renee studied for about a year on that, talked to an expert, Jim Rakakis, who gave us a lot of information on how a land bank could be set up. And we found out that, just like you said, the population of Seneca County was too small for us to actually have one. And when it changed, we were ready to go because we knew what we needed. The idea of the land bank is these dilapidated structures we can, the land bank can get a hold of. And in the case of a structure that needs torn down, there can be monies available to tear the structure down. And then perhaps if the two people next door wanted the property that was in the middle, the land bank could either give that property to them or sell it at a price. We could also get properties that were abandoned or in need of some kind of work. The land bank is able to get a hold of those properties and get them back on the market, maybe get them to somebody who can actually fix them back up and get them back, getting taxes paid on them. And one of the big problems that we had was there were several properties, over 40 last year, that we had to mow in Fostoria because of them being abandoned. So we're hoping to get those back onto the market and take some of that burden off our city workers. But this is a countywide initiative. It's not just Fostoria. This will be the entire Seneca County. Any structures that are a problem, any vacant properties that have been a problem anywhere in the county could be handled through this land bank. We have to set up a committee that would be apprised of two commissioners and hopefully both mayors of Tiffin and Fostoria and some other people as we see fit. I think 5, 7, or 9 is the number of people on this committee, but it's an opportunity for us to take some problem properties and get them back to work, some properties that currently aren't having taxes paid on them, get them back in the hands of somebody who will pay taxes on them again. So I think it'd be a huge win for the entire Seneca County, but it really helped Fostoria quite a bit. But it's not limited to what we're trying to get accomplished in Fostoria. And I'm by no means an expert on land banks, but Renee has studied it quite a bit, and I know that Damon has a lot of information about it. So if you have any technical questions on it, I'll refer to them. But that's kind of the story of what we have as far as land bank.
Okay. And what, like I said, with our approval of this board, then it comes to you, Damon, as the treasurer to establish, is that correct?
Yes, I did complete the initial articles of incorporation, and I believe there's a supplemental appropriation request made for the $99 incorporation fee to the Secretary of State. And I do have that with me, so if the commissioners would pass a resolution today authorizing the incorporation and the setup of a land bank, the name of it would be the Seneca County Land Reutilization Corporation, which is in fact going to be a nonprofit to work with some of these community partners, and the board setup is the same as Mayor Keckler had stated. And I would just reiterate the same thing. The mayor had said that it is a good tool. We're seeing more of our surrounding counties do this. Sandusky County just enacted. I know Crawford was meeting with Jim Rukakis as well to look at instituting one. And it can be used for economic development as well. There may be some commercial properties later on down the line that may be abandoned that we could use. And the other thing too is on some of these properties, we hopefully may be able to streamline the foreclosure process. Maybe we won't have to use it. Say the mortgage company says we're releasing our lien on some of those properties the mayor talked about. We could go back and say, okay, just do a deed in lieu off to the land bank. Turn around if there's some demo monies or something like that. It'll help clean up some of the blighted areas. And it's not just Fostoria, there could be some in Tiffin, some of the villages, townships, wherever the need may be.
Tell me about, Renee, if you will. We have situations in which, I don't know what the word would be, but people buy the real estate and do minimum improvements, and then try to lease it out. I mean, what requirements would there be of those end users then for these properties?
Well, the good thing about the formation of a land bank is the board of this land bank can set those requirements. So the board could actually say, okay, you know, the land bank owns 3 pieces of property and we have someone interested in purchasing them, but they have to have some work done to them before they can be turned over. The land bank can actually hold the deed until the work on those properties have been done. And you can have an inspector go in and sign off on them that everything's up to code and everything like that before you turn over the deed. So you can control what's being done with those properties before you turn them over to somebody.
Could a group like Habitat
Yes.
purchase those properties?
This opens up a variety of opportunities for community partnerships and collaboration, shared services, if you will. You could partner with Habitat, you could partner with construction companies, with a variety of different entities to make this.
So the idea with the land bank then would be to make a decision as to whether that structure ought to be raised because it's not repairable, or whether it ought to have some improvements made and hopefully get it back on the tax-paying register for the county.
Exactly.
Because most of these properties, what percentage of these properties are delinquent property tax owners?
Probably all of them.
I would guess that some, even like during the Move Ohio Forward, some of those were going through the process of being taken over by the auditor's office or some other entity, and they had to sign off on these properties. And now that the houses are down, the vacant lots have gone to the county, and so we're all stuck with these properties that aren't going anywhere. And you know, we want to make sure that we mention that we're not looking to be landlords, or we're not looking to own a bunch of property. We want to get these through this land bank and get them back in the hands of someone who actually put them back to work again.
Could the land bank actually show up at a county foreclosure sale and purchase the properties?
I believe they probably could on
Yes, you
foreclosure,
can.
yes.
With a land bank, there are a variety of different ways that you can acquire property. You know, like right now, if the city is, somebody says, we have this property, and the city takes it, the city can't donate it to somebody, it has to go up for auction.
Right.
A land bank would be a tool where that wouldn't necessarily have to happen. So we could actually, it opens up a lot of different doors as to how you can acquire the property.
This comes under the category, don't ask a question unless you know the answer. So, okay, well, I mean, Renee and Eric have taken the lead on this. And first of all, I have to commend you for being so proactive with this. This is a situation in which I think we can see some real improvement to a number of properties that are blighted or that certainly need some attention. So kudos to you guys for doing it. And I know that the concentration would be in some of the Fostoria tracks, census tracts. But the fact is that there are properties around the county that need some attention, and certainly would benefit from this. So I can't do anything but say thank you and give you my full support.
Is there, once the land bank is formed, financially, in order to do some of those things, what's the money? What money is, how is that handled? Where's that come from?
There's several different tools. I think Damon's been working on some of that stuff for us. But it could be anywhere from foundations or that kind of thing, or different processes like that.
What most counties typically do is commissioners will authorize what's known in addition to the delinquent real estate tax collection fund. So all the properties that taxpayers would pay late, additional 5% would go to fund the land bank. That amount could be changed at any time. You know, upon formation is going to be the initial, probably where there's going to be a need to fund that. But over the course of time, depending on how the land bank does and the financial needs of the land bank, you can adjust down that percentage. Because I believe Sandusky County did a 5%.
But it's like, pretty much like any other nonprofit. I mean, you can make donations to it if you want to individually. You can make donations through a charitable trust, foundation, and then you can find a mechanism by which to do it. But I think the thing that we need to remember, if it comes to funding it with 5% of delinquent taxes, is the probability is the county wasn't going to receive those, and they wouldn't be to the benefit of the school systems or to the tax base anyway, because the properties are out there not being paid for at this point. So this puts them back on the rolls, and really that 5% figure is something that we're probably not collecting, but we will collect as a result of refurbishing the houses or making them bare lots.
And I think too, from a grants perspective, there is a tremendous amount of money out there, not only federally, but in the state of Ohio, that is strictly available for land banks. If you do not have one formed, you are not eligible for the money. And based on what I'm hearing, there will be another probably pile of money coming out within the next 18 months, specifically for land banks. So we would be applying for grants and so forth. And then ultimately, the goal of the land bank is it will fund itself, because if you start acquiring properties and partnering with someone like Habitat to fix them up, those properties go back out on the market and you sell them. So let's say you sell a property for $35,000, that money goes right back into the land bank to be used for another project.
Well, these projects take a great deal of administration, a great deal of time. Who's going to handle the administration of the land bank?
Well, the board can partner with another entity or something like that.
Well, the board usually doesn't do the work. Who's actually going to do the grunt work, the day-to-day
Well, since,
tasks?
as we have talked about, since the bulk of the work initially would probably be in Fostoria, we have a Community Improvement Corporation over there, a CIC, which I operate, and we would be more than happy to enter into a partnership with the board of the land bank to handle the day-to-day activities for Seneca County.
All right?
What do we need to do to get this thing rolling?
Pass a resolution.
So move.
Let's have a read.
Yeah, seconded, let's
All right,
move.
would you read it as it's stated there?
Establishing Seneca County Land Reutilization Corporation in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code Section 5722.02, effective November 10th, 2015, approving the initial articles of incorporation.
All right,
That's what I move.
very good. You
And that's
did that
what I
well.
seconded.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to establish the county land reutilization bank, or all that she said, and you
It's
said,
easier
and
for you
everybody
to
else said,
say.
yeah, exactly. Any further comments or concerns from the board? Okay, seeing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes. Motion approved.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We appreciate it.
guys.
Thank you very much again, as already stated, for the work you had already been looking into this for a while, but just, really allowed us to expedite it fast because of the work you put into it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to Damon as well, and
Thank you, Damon.
is there another thing then, Damon, you will need passed as well, did you say?
No, just the signing. You passed a resolution authorizing the incorporation of the nonprofit. So, and then what I'm passing around as well is the actual articles of incorporation to do that. Send it down to the Secretary of State, have that name approved, have the initial corporation set up. Prosecutor's office has already reviewed and approved, and the initial 2 commissioners who's going to be on this board, I think was originally Holly and Mike. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Those are going to be the 2 that sign the articles of incorporation.
And then we will continue with the rest of our agenda, and just so anybody knows, we're not offended if you need to move on to leave. You don't have to stay for our entire meeting, but you're more than welcome to do so as well. So, just so you know that.
Thank you. That was a good exodus to leave.
Like I said, not that this is, like a thing's too.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Do you want to take that back with you? Holly's done signing? Probably. And you'll just help us to the resolution.
Your city did not, it was 13 years ago today that the tornado hit your city.
Okay,
And then land bank.
okay.
Not a bad day.
Yep.
In history. You know.
You'll have to submit that with.
Okay. So take us back to the, actually, before we even go there, we are right to our next scheduled thing at 10:30, and I know they're here. Tanya's back here, there she is. So we're just gonna go there before we go to the rest of the agenda, the top of the agenda. And Tanya's Hofford is here as the Seneca County Historical Society, who manages the museum for us, and part of the agreement, operating agreement, and management agreement we have with them. We'll talk about an inventory plan.
And I have Mark Steinmetz with me.
And Mark is here, yes.
Prepared all of it, so I'm gonna let him talk and then I will intervene.
All right,
So-
that works.
Okay, I have some handouts here for everybody, so it's okay, let me give these out to everyone.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, as Holly said, we, as a part of our lease agreement, it was to come in and talk about the possibility of a inventory for the museum, and that's what we're here for this morning, so. What I have here is basically some items, something to talk with here, but attachments, we're gonna talk about Past Perfect software, and this is what almost all museums are using these days as far as doing inventory, so I have a prepared list of what an estimated cost would be to buy the software and some of the other stuff that we need to have to go with it, like a computer and other things. And then there's also a printed out pamphlet here that really does a good job describing what the software does and all the different things that you can do with it. It's pretty incredible. But just to start out here, a little background information on the current state of the museum inventory. There has never been a complete inventory of the museum's collection. So everything that's there is there, but we don't know what's there. The county's partial inventory is incomplete. They did start inventories before, and the majority of the inventory that we have on the printouts there that's in the auditor's office was gathered 23 years ago in 1992. The existing inventory record sheets are currently kept in 3-ring binders with limited information, and there's no photos with them. So, there's not much when it comes to describing what we received, just the basics. What the new software would do would provide a sheet with a photograph, a complete description, lots of things, locations within the museum where it would be kept at, an estimated price or value. There would be all these things on there that would basically answer all our questions. There really isn't any idea of the quantity of items that make up the current inventory because in many cases, one item number was used to cover a large quantity of items. For example, Tanya, what do you got, the some examples.
DAR books, there's over 200 books, but they're all under one number. So, different things like that, like the library and photos. There's also a lot of clothing that are like in one box, and there might be 25 items under one number. So, there's a lot there.
So really, these things all have a separate number, so not separate identification, so they could all be accounted for. The estimated value of the items that are inventoried come from 1992, so the value is greatly outdated. An example is was the Ford automobile that's there. I think it got listed as $500. I'm pretty sure it's worth this day and age probably a little more than $500. The only computerized access that we have to the existing inventory is through the auditor's office. It would be really beneficial to have a computerized system available in the museum so that items could be searched by subject, donor, location, etc. We have a lot of times people coming in saying, geez, my family donated this item here, 15 years ago. We kind of would like to see it, before she passes away, just kind of see where it's at. Well, we could research it by the donor name, we could research it by a year, we could research it by a lot of things and helpfully narrow down. And then if it has a location, we know it's in the upstairs parlor, or something like that. So this gives us a lot more information. Performing the inventory does the following. It provides a complete list of everything that's in the museum for the first time ever. And we can update the monetary value of the items using the appraisal websites like worthpoint.com. I mean, I use that in my collecting of antiques. It gives you about a 5-year history of what a particular antique sells for on the market. It is a true appraisal of what it actually is going for. It's not a pie in the sky thing. So while we're in the process of doing this update of all these information, we can update the value. And having an itemized page for each item in the collection is useful for insurance purposes, because I'm sure the insurance company that's insuring these things isn't going to pay for something that they don't think we have. Having a copy and a photograph and a cost value to it, that at least gives you some really good information for the insurance company to work with. It also gives us a glimpse, as we do the inventory, of the condition of the items, and alerts the staff of any future preservation requirements that might be needed, such as the encapsulation of something or the restoration of something. Maybe something needs attention right now. So that's something that we get a chance to look at each and every item and maybe stop some damage that may be happening. Maybe there's some mold or something that we got to address. It also provides security for the items to prevent theft. People see a numbering system on there. They know that this is being accounted for. They know that if they take it out of there, it could be traced or it could be tracked in such a way that, if something comes up missing, we can contact all the auctioneers in the area and say, be on the lookout for this. Basically your printout becomes almost like a wanted poster. Shows you to watch out for this particular rifle or watch out for this particular item. And if it comes up, we have proof that it belonged to the museum. And during the inventory process, it'd be a great time to clean and apply new labels onto the items before putting them back in the display case, because we could really use some of that so people can identify what's in there. Now, in the process of doing the inventory, it'd be a perfect time to make some deaccession decisions. And that means to eliminate things that we don't necessarily need. We're undoubtedly going to find things that are broken or in terrible condition. For example,
We have a lot of the Tiffin glassware that's either chipped or broken, it's down in the bottoms, and we've never been able to get rid of them because of them being one of a kind or just not really our inventory, but maybe the foundation's inventory and not knowing what to do with it. And down in the basement, the clothes are like, a lot of them are to no repair. They've been down there for years, and now with all the water that we've had and everything, it's kind of hard to keep them under control. But with the inventory thing, he's talking about, these are the sheets that we have from the auditor's office. And this is what it is right now on here. So, like if you come in and said that you wanted to know, like Mark said, about something your family gave, we can look on here, but it's going to be like a lot of these here where it says hats, donor, no name, appraised value, none, age, no information. Then you got to go back to the inventory books in the office, which there's 30-some books this thick, and try to find it. So it's really time consuming, and people get upset when they come in because they're like, well, we know who gave it, it should still be here, So it kind of puts you on the spot and makes you feel out of sorts because you're thinking, I know it's here, but where is it? So I think it would help that way a lot with the inventory.
But again, I guess being able to thin some of the stuff out that has no really historical value to the museum would be a way of making space for other things that really do have a relevant value. There were collections that were accepted of like a collection of 100 elephants. But we only wanted 3 elephants because they were made at the American Standard Factory. The rest of them are all things you'd buy at a 5 and dime someplace. But that's the only way the person would donate it. Well, we really, as much as we appreciate the 3 elephants we got from the American Standard plant, the rest of them we don't care for.
Put them in a trunk.
In the trunk. So those are things that, again, that we probably should really address. And I know it's a very touchy situation because some people take offense to the fact that we are getting rid of some things, but in reality, we wouldn't get rid of anything that's that important, and they hopefully would understand that. This is something that we probably have to have the legal department get involved with as far as how do you dispose of these things. I think maybe an auction or whatever, is the correct way of doing it. And again, the Past Perfect program allows to enter locations so you'll know where in the location, where in the museum it would be found. And the commissioners would receive periodic updates on reports of the progress of the inventory, so you guys would know where we are in the system and how we're doing, and whether we're adding on to the value of things, and so that's be something that's going to be something we can print out with this new program. Well, things that we would need again is the attached list of equipment. These are things that we would feel that are necessary to do the job. The hardware, the software. Just again, I don't have real set firm prices down there, ballpark figures, but just a typical. It doesn't require a whole lot of computer hardware. It's just the typical stuff you buy off a shelf. We would need to know if this system is acceptable to the county auditor. I mean, we need to know how it would be able to be translated, whether your system can handle it or whether we got to go ahead and develop it on there and then have someone hand type it in to be accepted by yours. I mean, we can give you copies of what this runs on, and I'm not a computer expert, but hopefully you would be able to see if it's something that would suit your needs. And then we would need to know if we need a new numbering system, because when the numbers were put on during a previous inventory before 1992, there was a certain way of doing it. And then when they did it after 1992, they did a different way of doing it. So we have items there that have totally 2 different sets of numbers, 2 totally different sets of books. And if that isn't confusing, I don't know what is. So maybe we need to go to a 3rd set that works good with the county, or keep with one and eliminate the other, but that was something that would need to be decided, and that certainly makes no difference to us. Okay, suggestions and recommendations. Due to the lack of any previous complete inventory in the past, there are an unknown number of items in the museum. Based on the auditor's printouts, an estimated partial inventory shows at least 6,000 to 7,000 items are in there, but that's again a partial inventory. And due to the fact that the inventory isn't complete, it's estimated there might be over 15,000 items in the museum. And we're talking, we've got boxes and boxes of photographs and currency and tokens and all kinds of things that you don't see that are stacked up that would all need to be gone through, and they have a value, so it would be something we need to eventually get to. And it's going to take years for this to be completed, because this if you go through it properly, photographs or scans or additions to the program, it's going to take a while to chip away at this. So this is not something that we have to warn you it's going to be done in a couple months or a year or two. It's going to be an ongoing process for the most part.
Can I stop you there?
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that Julie's in the room. Julie, you remember when the museum was closing, what kind of mess we got into with the inventory over there? Can you attest to how bad the inventory is as far as numbering system and everything?
It will be a monumental task to log it the way that it needs to be logged.
Yeah. Thank you.
So as Julie said, it's going to be a big job, but I guess the question would be is how much longer do we want to wait and keep putting this off? I mean, this is something that apparently, Holly is interested in doing. It's something I think that really needs to be done for the benefit of all the citizens of Sunny County, because of the fact that this is basically their museum. So, I mean, it's something that we would love to see go forward. And we are highly recommending that Tanya be the one to hire to do this job. She's been in the museum for the last 16 years. She knows more about that than anybody else. She's current with all the recent additions we received. She's worked with Julie in the past. Not only does she have a knowledge of what's there at the museum, but she has a good knowledge of antiques. You can bring in a off-site group that does inventories, but they aren't gonna know a gobbet from a spittoon, you know? They would have to go through that other stage of knowing what an antique item is and what it's called description-wise, whereas, you know, she can go right to it and describe it and find it. So, she would be a great asset to be doing this work. And again, with the Historical Society there, we would be more than happy to help in with this. I know I would love to be, helping with this, so, in any free time I might have, I'd be glad to come over and help dig things out, because I love it's gonna be like exploring, it's gonna be like an adventure, trying to go into these cupboards and finding things that maybe haven't been seen in years. So, to be able to get those things out and document them and make them available for the public to see and for an appraisal value and things like this, it would be something that I know we would have no problem with our society coming forward and helping out. So, that all comes free of charge. The Historical Society would also be having, I'm sure, the help of the Tiffin Glass Museum, because of the fact that they've done photographing of some of the glassware that we have that they don't have. It's very rare. They've set up a booth and a camera operation, and they've taken pictures. I know that they'd be more than happy to come over and give us their copy of photographs. That'd save us a step of having to take pictures of things. They can help us identify the glassware, help us with the cost value of it, because they have their little shop over there. So again, we are great. We have a great relationship with them, and I know there'd be no problem getting them over to give us a hand. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. Again, if you get a chance to look over the software information stuff, that's what we're recommending. So we're open for any questions that you might have. And
So basically, Mark, what you're asking for, about $2,500 to go ahead and get the hardware, software
Yeah.
to allow your group to go ahead, along with these other groups, to go ahead and take a full inventory of the museum.
Well, it would be a case where we would help, but I don't, that would be something I would think that people don't have to hire to have done. I think what I'm asking is actually the paying for someone to do this. Because, it's something that's gonna take years, and it's something that really should be paid. We've been volunteering for the last 4 years at the museum, covering all those hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff that's over there that's yours. And I think it's time that we get some help over there as far as getting somebody in charge to oversee your collections and your items. So, as a byproduct or as a 2-for-1 type deal, if she becomes hired in as the person doing the inventory, she can also be basically your director and do the things she had done before and oversee that type stuff. But again, I know that's a funding issue with you folks, and I know that's something that you have to talk about, but if you would go out and have this done through a private sector and hire a bunch of people to do it, it's gonna cost you more money, it's gonna take more time, it's not gonna be done correctly. I mean, what is the trade-off here? So, I guess those are things that you folks will have to decide and see how you wanna handle it. This is our suggestion, our proposal, this is what makes sense to us. So,
In the items requested, which is just the physical things, not a person, this is the software and the things needed for that. As Commissioner Zoller said, you totaled us up around 2,500, roughly what's needed for that. Do you have something in writing that you're proposing in terms of us having a person, Tanya, to do this? Because I don't think we're prepared with the job description to know that we're bringing on, since we're in the middle of the reorganizational effort and working towards deciding what's the best operational procedures after we get through 16. So we have something for the future, which we're working on, and you guys are part of that, which, as I said, is taking us time, but I think it's going in the right direction. And that requires us, we looked at example of how the Wood County Museum operates, and the meeting we have the 18th will be the first meeting we've had since we've discussed that here. But do you have a proposal, or are you planning to come with a proposal if you think we needed to hire somebody to do this? In other words, if we committed to funding this, we don't have a means of getting it done unless we hire someone, is what you're saying.
well,
I mean-
that's what I would, recommend.
I mean, if you don't think you would have time as volunteers, which I get that, I totally understand. I'm just wanna know that it's not worth us buying stuff if we don't have
Right.
somebody to do it, right?
If you need a
That's what you're saying.
proposal, we can come up with a proposal, but I don't know exactly how this all
Right.
works, but,
Right.
whatever you need. we
I
can
mean,
do
this
that.
is something that's gonna take, as you said, it's gonna take years, so this is not a one-year investment, this is an investment over time.
No.
I'm sure eventually somewhere there'd be a software upgrade or something down the road,
Yeah.
but it is something we do need to do, I strongly believe that.
Yeah, and it's not-
Tying it with a position is something I'm hearing for the first time we have to think about a little bit, given where we're at with everything else.
Yeah, well, again, that's something that I know we're in discussions, and that's just an additional thought to throw into the mix.
Yeah.
But, again, and with this purchase of this equipment, it doesn't have to be purchased if you got stuff sitting around that's usable. I have no problem using stuff that's already in used condition that would work. But I guess the thing I'd like to emphasize is that this product or this station with the past product wouldn't be there just for the initial inventory, but it would be there for good, because that would be our tool to look things up and to keep track of things.
Oh,
If you move an item from one room to another, you go and you change that location on
Yeah.
the item, so.
Absolutely. And the things that the Barnstein's Museum Foundation owns, they have an inventory, and this is the software they use.
Right.
So there was confusion early on when we started the reorganization about that software, but that's their software, and their items are all inventoried in that software.
Well, that's what they're saying, yeah. And I guess,
So
you know
you
what?
wouldn't inventory their items?
Well,
Yes.
what we would
You
recommend is we inventory everything.
Okay.
And then, because there, again, with Tanya being there has been some disagreement as to whose is what. And in the process of her being your employee and overlooking your museum and your contents, she was trying to make sure that what was the county was the county's. And I guess there is possibly some issues that might be debatable as to whose is what. But rather than have stuff like that slow down the process, what we would recommend is just inventory the whole thing. And then when we sit down at the table afterwards, and if the foundation says this is ours, and then we pull the paper out and say, oh, yes, it is. Or if it isn't, then over the question, then we get somebody else involved, Derek or whatever else. But I mean, rather than, we want to keep this moving, and we would think with the ideal way would be just do everything.
Well, first of all, thank you for your voluntary work over the past few years, so we sincerely appreciate it. I've probably been the biggest advocate of making certain that we did some type of an inventory, because nobody knows what's there and whose is what, and there's been all kinds of stories about what should be there, what isn't there, et cetera. So the time has come, for sure. My concern, and I know we have another meeting next week, but my concern when we talk about using time to do the inventory, then we're really talking about two positions, because you wouldn't want the curator of the museum, who's ever run the museum, also having a full-time job trying to do inventory. You want somebody paying attention to the day-to-day operations of the museum as well. I don't think you can really separate those two positions. So that would be a matter of concern to me, and I know that we continue to talk about moving forward with not only the building, but with the operation of the building and the operation of the museum. So I think that, yes, inventory needs to be done. Yes, we need to find a way to get it to happen. I'm not sure that this is exactly the best solution, but I think that we need to continue to have those discussions and have the cooperative meetings that we've had thus far.
Okay?
I somewhat disagree with you, Commissioner Kirster. I would think that position of the director and the person that would handle inventory could be handled by the same person there. I would hope that we are still looking under the premises of the museum budget being controlled by be contributed from three different sources: county, society, and foundation. Is that still kind of the?
It's still in the works, but yeah, that's on the floor, as long as trying to figure out what that budget is. That's the
Well,
big part we're working on.
we do have the past budget that would at least give us a foundation, and the past budget did have a full-time director in there. And I would think that if we adopt that, I don't by any means advocate that the county take the museum back over completely again. I think it needs to be a shared responsibility. And I would believe that the director could also dual in for some responsibilities for the inventory to handle that. That would be my hope.
Well, that's what we would
If
anticipate.
you're trying to do, the problem is if you're trying to do two things, you don't do either of them well.
But-
And we know this is a monumental task.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I mean, this is a full-time, doing inventory for the museum is an absolutely full-time responsibility, period. I mean, you have to devote your time to doing the inventory, which would not leave you any time to be a curator or to do what needs to be done from a management standpoint. So that concerns me.
Well, in the past, she was working on a 35-hour work week, and the museum is open basically 12 hours. Our thought process would be that, we go in there and cover the museum while it's open and handle the tours and the questions coming through the door, and she could be working away on the inventory, so that would be a case where she would be there and be able to do her thing, and then when the museum's closed, she'd be there when there's nobody there and have full concentration on doing the work, but, it's a case where, again, personally, we would like to see it go back to, a funded thing through the county. And again, in our meetings with this group, we had the lady come in from Wood County. Wood County doesn't claim to own the museum. They don't own anything, a part of the museum, nothing. But they contribute over almost $500,000 a year towards the funding of it. And we're looking at a budget of a tenth of that. I mean, we're looking at, if we can get by with $50,000, that includes a salary and the utilities, and then, like I said, to me, asking the county for a tenth of what Wood County gives, but you still have control over all of the, quite literally, probably $1 million worth of stuff you have in that building over there, is fair. But again, that's something that you folks have to work out. But that's just our feelings. So.
Anything else at this time? Thank you, appreciate you
Thank
coming
Okay,
in.
thank you.
Presenting the information, very much so. Mark, do you have extra? I'll share a copy of mine with Julie on the software, we talked about the auditors.
We can give you two more.
Okay, I'll just give her a set, so,
Okay.
like I said, just to see that
Okay.
software, because they're the ones that get the
That
inventory
would-
once
yeah,
we do it.
and it's all online, all the information. So
Thanks
Okay.
again, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We are now back to the top of the printed agenda. Got all our scheduled things done. Were there any adjustments to the rest of the agenda on resolutions from anyone? Anything we need to address today?
I have one additional resolution, and that's that $99 for the article fee that Damon
Oh, okay.
suggested, so
Yep.
that's the only one that isn't on the agenda.
Okay. Nothing else, we can proceed with, no. We can proceed with the resolutions as printed and put your $99 one in there wherever you want, so we don't forget it.
I have a resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the ambulance service fund, moving $1,000 from contract services to other expense. I have a resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the general fund, moving $3,203.94 from advertising to contract services. This is at the request of the prosecutor. I have a supplement to the permit appropriations to the Child Support Enforcement Fund, putting $98,600 into contract services. Resolution authorizing a fund transfer be made to the Public Assistance Fund, moving $65,561.50 from the public assistance to the county share. I have an appropriation adjustment within the general fund, moving $1,000 from contract services to supplies, $2,700 from contract service to contract repairs, $350 from travel to contract repairs, total move $4,050. This is at the request of the youth center. I have a resolution authorizing Seneca County Board of Commissioners to enter into a food service agreement with Bridges Community Academy on behalf of the Seneca County Sheriff's Office, retroactive to September 1st, 2015. I have a resolution authorizing Holly M. Stacy as President of the Board of Commissioners to sign the grant agreement and the related documentations for the Community Development Block Grant Program. I have a resolution terminating, names I always do so well, Lindsay Hunker as the TANF Financial Assistance Technician effective November 3rd, 2015. She is under our maintenance payroll. She does work for Job and Family through the TANF program, and they had issues and they need to let her go. I have a supplement to the permit appropriations for the delinquent real estate tax fund, putting $99 into other expense, and again, it's for the recording fee for the application. And that's all I have.
I make a motion that we approve those appropriations as just discussed.
I'll second, but I've got a question.
All right, we have a motion, a second, on the floor to approve resolutions as presented. Questions, concerns?
Seneca County Board of Commissioners, food service agreement with Bridges Community Academy. Bridges Community Academy is the one that's out of St. Francis.
Yes.
And what do they do as far as food service goes?
Sheriff is supplying them with the food service. They do that with North Central Academy, and he's obviously wanting to do that as well as a source of revenue for the sheriff's office.
So they get the same lunch the prisoners do?
Yes.
So say there's something to be said about school lunches and, yeah, I'm not going there.
Delivering bread and water, is that the deal? All right.
Yep.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, I'll stand approved. All right, opportunity for citizens' comments at this time, so if anyone would like to address the group, just state your name and you may do so.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Kevin Lewis, this is Mike Ing, we both work with the Ohio Labor Unions. And I came in about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago and spoke with you about RUMA agreements for pipeline work and stuff like that. And I was down in Crawford County a couple weeks ago, and I think they was looking at the same thing. And evidently, they gave me a copy of a draft that came from Seneca County. And I just wondered, have you guys approved this, or is this in the works, or what's?
That draft is from us.
Yes.
Can you show that to Steve? Did
Yeah,
you
I
see
have
that?
it.
So I don't know what it is.
It's called the Hall Road Agreement for,
Roadway use agreement type for during their construction?
for
Okay,
Rover Pipeline.
okay. It probably came from the engineers.
It did.
Yes, Okay.
It says in there
Yeah.
that he-
Too bad Mark left.
Not even know if you did actually taking any action on it, or if you had, I was going,
I don't
I
think
was
we
going to praise you.
have.
I
I
mean,
don't think
if
we
you
have
did-
because, like I said, I don't,
No, we haven't done this one, not the whole road agreement.
yeah.
You didn't have any idea
We
when
have
you,
not,
when you might act on it, or?
And I don't recall seeing this, so it's not been presented to us.
Yeah, he hasn't given it to us yet. I don't know what their time schedule is on when they need that in place. I know there's another one, the wind folks talked about, they're gonna be soon working on their, maintenance, the road agreements.
Well,
with
evidently maybe the
engineer.
engineer didn't send it down to Crawford, because I think there was some talk back and forth that where your neighboring counties, there was gonna be some interest in doing the same,
Sure,
same agreement.
Right.
You know,
right. Yeah, he hasn't brought it anything to us to, and it's gonna come through Mark to us.
right. And that's why I was just asking, had you, I didn't know if you had already acted on it or not acted on it.
Well, we have a lot of respect for the engineer's office.
Right.
And I can tell you that typically what they present to us, if it's within reason, we will act on. Not saying that, I'm
Right.
just speaking for myself now. I would assume that if he presents us something that's reasonable, we'll probably take action.
So, probably, I need to probably get a hold of the engineer's office
Yeah.
and see if and when he's gonna present this. And then if and when he does present it, that'll be the time when the action will be taken.
Right, that's right.
Right.
Okay.
Looks like they have Loudon, Hopewell, Seneca, Eden, Bloom, all in this agreement, so we would have to get signatures from all those, and that hasn't been presented yet, so I'm guessing Mark's still working.
Yeah, but I would make sure you reach out to him before
Yeah, I
it
will.
gets that
But that's
far,
all,
yeah.
that's the only thing I wasn't asking you to do anything with. I was just asking, has it been adopted
Right.
Hasn't
yet?
been, yeah.
And it's a very good agreement, and that's why I was going to congratulate you on it if it's had adopted it. So
Yeah.
I'll get a hold of
I
Mark
like to
and,
take the credit, but we haven't.
okay, well, I'll get a hold of Mark and see where
Okay.
he's at with this then, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Anything else for citizens' comments at this time? Anyone? Okay. Seeing none. No further business?
Move for adjourn.
Second.
A motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. 10:59.